Hey, welcome to the Cam and Otis Show. We're a father-son business podcast where we talk with other lifelong learners about making an impact and solving big problems. And today we're fortunate enough to have our good friend Allie Schwanke joining us. How you doing today, Allie?
Doing great. How are you guys?
Oh man, loving it, loving it. We were talking about background noise. The one thing that I didn't, and I don't think it'll come through, but today is the graduation for the United States Air Force Academy. For those of you
Okay.
folks that are keeping track of your Air Force Academy calendars, which means that the Thunderbirds will be flying over, and we may get a little taste of the sound of freedom before we wrap up the show, which I always love to hear because it's a beautiful sound, believe me. But back to the subject in hand, because I've already told you how it doesn't take much to get me distracted. Allie, I wanted to, and this is my favorite question to ask for founders, ask of founders, ask to founders. Camden will correct my adverb usage here later on, but is what was the catalyst? What was that thing that you said, all right, I'm done working and helping other people's businesses get better. I want to do it myself. What happened there?
Yeah, really for me, it was a couple things. I had reached the level of leveling up in previous jobs and it felt like there wasn't anywhere else to go. And I tried to buy into a business prior to that, and that did not transpire. And I mean, it ended up being one of those situations where the perceived value of what get, in my opinion, was less than what they wanted to sell it for. So I said, if this is the case, I'll just go ahead and start something on my own here. So that was what launched it, and ultimately that was about 12 years ago, and I've been doing a couple things since then, but really the company that we started started in 2016. So this company, in essence, has been here for 7 years.
That's awesome. So 7 years, you must have done something right.
I would like
But
to think
what?
so.
Yeah, I mean, either that or you're just flat out hard headed and just kept pushing, which is a trait to be successful as an
Yep.
entrepreneur too.
Yep.
What was that first major roadblock that you were like, all right, screw this. I'm working on my resume, and you came to that point of, stopping and turning back.
I mean, ultimately, this is probably one that more people experience than not, and it's not talked about. And that is resigning from your current job to pursue that opportunity. Because I think everybody is pretty happy for you at first. But I will say I wrote a blog about this shortly after I had started, about 2 years in, that I called it the one question every entrepreneur hates. And that question is, are you still doing that thing? Are you still doing that thing? And the reason why people ask us this is because how many people have we met over the course of our lifetime that stand up and they're like, oh, I'm doing this thing and I'm doing this business. And then, 12 months in, they're like, oh yeah, I took another job. I still do that on the side.
Yeah.
And I think it's because we're, afraid of, once you announce you're doing something, everyone's like, rah, rah, rah. And then 12 months in, no one's rawing you anymore. And it's just like, it's back to the unsexy everyday execution that keeps a business alive. And when you realize that a business is more about finding business, invoicing, taxes, all of the stuff that's not the fun stuff.
Ouch!
And then they
Ouch!
go,
Why you got to say that?
I know, I'm sorry. If you're thinking about starting a business, warning, there's unfun stuff beyond the announcement. And even like a person like myself, like I started a marketing consultancy. I love marketing. You do marketing about 30% of the time. 70% of the time is everything else. So you have to just realize that. And that was probably the first roadblock, was like, okay, I don't know that much about taxes. So find yourself a good attorney or find yourself a good accountant. I don't know that much stuff about like contractor agreements. Find yourself a lawyer. Do not try and do it yourself. You'll waste your time. You'll end up with something that isn't as, probably buttoned up as it should be. And once you realize that, that's probably your first obstacle. That was mine.
This might not have come right away. It might have come further down the road. But how did you figure out how to get that fun back in your business? If you're only spending 30% of the time doing what you love, did you hate the other 70%, or did you find a way to enjoy that as well?
I mean, I think that's hard because when you're first starting out, unless you come into some money where you can hire people right away, you're left doing a lot of that kind of grunt work yourself when you first start. And I think for me, like, you have to find your own motivation. But for me, my dopamine hits come from small wins. So if I can have small wins, so if I can develop a process to get my invoices out every month, and every month when I log into it, it requires a little bit less time of me and it's a little more process focused. So once I do that, then the more you do this consistently and have a process, then once you've executed it consistently for a couple months, then you can bring someone in. So it's like setting yourself milestones that you can celebrate. So for me, those small wins were like, I have an invoice template. Yay. Like, that's one thing in my toolbox. I have an automated email copy that I use to send that out with. Yay. That's one more thing that, like, it was fun for me to create the template. It's not fun for me to send it out, but that the fun was actually making the process around it.
Did you find that finding those small wins and things sorry, Dad. I was saying finding those small wins, that's a good way to keep it going. How about the fun of the actual thing that brought you to it, like the marketing? Did you find that you're still able to spend the right amount of time on it? Because I think that's a big barrier for a lot of entrepreneurs, is like the whole idea of the business is the fun thing. And it's like you never get to do the fun thing anymore because you're telling someone else to go do it.
Right. Well, I think my biggest realization, and it continues to be my realization, is how you define your fun thing might not be the way that your audience defines the pain that they have for you to do your fun thing. And what I mean by that is, I love content marketing. I love technology. I love, like, for those of you that don't know who I am, I have my business helps folks with HubSpot, with video, with YouTube. Like, all of these things to me are super fun. The pain that those things actually solve are tied to, I need more leads for my business because I need to make more money because we have goals to hit. So they might not seek me out because they love YouTube. They might seek me out because we need a new way to get in front of our customers, and all of the other channels that we're using are saturated. So YouTube came up on our list and, like, we need to do it. But they're not going to come to the call being like, yay, I want to be on video. And so my love of it has to be translated into, like, how do I make this as simple and exciting for them? So I have to figure out how to, like, use my enthusiasm to solve their problem in their perception or, like, their perceived manner, and not just because, like, I think everybody in every business should be on YouTube. I do, but, like, it's a reframing your passion is what it is.
I want to jump back, even take a further step back though. What is it about marketing? What got you into marketing? I mean, in the conversations we've had before we hit the record button, it's obvious that you like that sort of, I mean, you have that personality, but how did you end up there and not, a doctor or a lawyer, I was going to say candlestick maker because it kind of goes with the frame, but how did you, the rhyme. Thank you. How did you end up marketing? Because your passion, it's obviously a passion of yours.
Yeah. The ironic thing about that statement is I went to college with the intention of becoming a physician, and I was pre-med, and I still took all the classes that one would need to do those things. And I added a couple of minors, so I had some flexibility. And what I learned is your ability to solve problems is fundamentally one of the things that you do as a physician. The more I kind of went through, like, I did a couple of internships and that kind of stuff, and you look at symptoms, you run them through diagnostics, and then you learn to understand the human body so that you have the context to know what might be a next step to help this person or this patient. And that is what I do in marketing. Now, I happen to have a creative personality. So the thing that I think thwarted me from some of the med school was, like, man, the idea of sitting in classrooms for 4 more years was just not my cup of tea when I was 21. And so I decided to pursue, at that point, I opened a photography studio and did some work in that manner. And I loved the ability to translate human energy into pictures. And my goal was to help businesses have more creative outlets. At that time, stock photos were huge. Everybody used stock photos. And I believed at that time what is true now. And I believe that nobody buys something because they saw a person in a stock photo. They want to believe that that person is real. Like, when we see the same gal, like, selling cookware, doing driver's ed, selling software, like, we grow to believe that that's not believable.
Mhm.
So where that where that transpired for me was because I have all these like frameworks of the scientific process and the scientific method that you learn in like science and math, taking that to marketing and pairing that with creativity, I truly found that blend once I was in the working world. So I have a business minor, but that became true as I was solving business problems. And ultimately I solve them, I guess, better than a lot of folks that maybe went to school with a marketing degree. So you find that out once you're in the real world, folks. You might not be doing what you went to school for, and that's okay.
You mentioned the scientific method there and kind of that way of thinking. What's another lesson that you got from your time pre-med that you apply to the business? Maybe some of the psychology or those type of things.
Yeah, the psychology is huge. I think the way people think that pain and pleasure, kind of teeter totter, that we're always trying to seek the things like time and convenience. Now, I was telling someone else this today. Time and convenience is now our new currency. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I will pay extra so that I have things that are easier for me. So, from a marketing perspective, if I could have, let's say, let's go back to this pre-med example. I have two choices. I can either do this ongoing treatment for the rest of my life, or I can have a surgery to fix this once and forever. Okay. Those are the way that we make decisions. And this one might cost more, but this one insurance will cover. So it's like, that's not untrue of how we help people with business problems. You could choose to do this in your business in this way, and it will solve this problem indefinitely or consistently, or you could do a one-time shot in the dark and see if it works. And sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So I think that that lesson is paramount. The second thing I learned is a lot of the studies for me came fairly easily. I'm a pretty good academic, and so I spent a lot of my other time leading organizations on campus. I was student body vice president. Learning how to lead people and influence people was one of the most important skills that I don't know that I would, my college probably doesn't want me to go on record and be like, I paid for 4 years to learn how to be parts of clubs. But when you're parts of clubs and you're leading people, you understand the dynamics. You understand, like, we'll call it people drama and, appeasing certain personalities. Like, all of that is huge for running a business, both for employees, clients, and vendors and all the like.
Talking about those like long-term solutions, the way we always like to refer to it is, you have like the Band-Aid solution and you have like the surgical solution, you have the long-term, right? Do you find that, because talking about the medical field, I think the dark side of the Band-Aid type thing isn't really from the physicians. That's a whole other category,
Absolutely.
But in the marketing side, do you find that people try to do the Band-Aid solution, or what has been your experience with that of implementing the proper solutions?
In the world of marketing, we have been conditioned to believe that everything is a push of a button.
Mm-hmm.
And that has tainted the thinking of so many entrepreneurs worldwide, because let's just use a couple of Super Bowl commercials, for example. We've got Squarespace, we've got Wix. You can make your own website, Camden. You can be a graphic designer in Canva. You can be a copywriter with, ChatGPT. Like, we somehow have gone from this, like, if you truly have been a copywriter, we've conditioned people to believe that, like, you ran the 100-meter dash as a fourth grader, now you can be in the Olympics. Like, it's not quite that correlated. It's not quite that easy. And so because we are marketing time and convenience in a lot of our marketing messages, I think one of the challenges is that people are believing that those things are easy, and then they're not. And it's that marketing is much more complicated than that. And it's all very, very, very situational, based on the problem you're solving, the people you're up against, the team that you have internally, and the competitive landscape. So I look at it more like a game of sports than I do actually like a scientific method, because your ability to solve a marketing problem will depend on who's on your team, what the competitors are doing, and who else is on the field, and what kind of conditions you're playing in.
Let's dive into that. And what I heard in the marketing sense is easy versus quick ROI, or probably not versus, because I think they're on that same side of the field, if you will, to keep that analogy going. So how do you overcome that with your clients so that they understand that, hey, this isn't about, pay me for one ad and you're going to get all this stuff. There's much more to it. Can you walk us kind of through a little bit of a strategy in that?
Yeah, so I'll reference a concept that a friend of mine, Greg Alexander, he's the founder of Collective 54. It's a network for professional service founders. But the thing that he talks about is the 4 types of needs. And without going through all 4 of them, basically I'll center on one. And when you want a quick ROI, you want the need that people have raised their hand and have well defined. So I need, let's say, I'm just going to use a very simple analogy. My toilet is clogged, and I need a plumber to unclog it. Like the 2 ways you could have solved that is you could have tried it yourself. And if you did, you maybe failed or it got worse. Or 2, you didn't even touch it and you're just like, whatever, I can't do this. I need a plumber. So those needs are very, very well defined. You can market your way to that because you're looking for people that are typing in or searching or texting someone saying, I need a plumber right now. And the 2 ways you come to that is either someone recommends someone to you or you find them online some way. That is how we get all of our problems solved these days. You either find out about it from a friend or you go online and search some way. You either go on Facebook or you go on, Google, whatever. If you do not have a problem that is that well defined and that like time and urgency based, you're going to be going up in the marketing funnel, as we say, helping them create the understanding that that is their problem. So let's say your toilet is running slow. You might need a new toilet. So you might go to Home Depot and look for toilets, or you might need a plumber, or you might need a new flapper. Like there's a lot of reasons why your toilet might be running slow. And as a founder, if you don't have multiple pieces of content and marketing helping funnel them to that ideal solution, that's where the ROI tends to get convoluted. And you have a lot of people wasting money because they tend to like market the flapper, but then the average homeowner is like, I don't know what a flapper is. And so you have this like disconnect between what you're marketing and what they believe the solution is. And that's our job as marketing consultants, marketing strategists, is helping you understand all the different ways your customers are coming to you when they don't have that defined need in that point in time. Because there's only so much market right now that has a clogged toilet. The rest of them are probably going to have a clogged toilet in the next 12 months. How do you stay top of mind so when that event catalyzes, you are top of mind?
Speaking of like the top of mind marketing, one of the other, and you hinted this too, is the educational aspect. Could you walk a little bit through your approach to like an educational marketing problem? Because I know in my, I think literally every one of my business ventures, I've been in that part of the market where I'm trying to educate people the entire time. And it's a freaking tough place to be in, like with no sugarcoat on. That is a tough thing to do. How do you, what's your approach to that?
Yeah. So I break it down between, so you'll hear, especially in SaaS or like software as a service, you hear these 2, but I'm gonna explain them here in a second. We've got capturing demand and creating demand. So capturing demand is that first example that I gave you, and that is the demand for plumbers to unclog a toilet is there, and you're going to pay more to be in that place because those people have what would be called commercial intent. So because they have commercial intent, they're going online with the intent of finding someone, hiring them, and paying them money to fix their problem pronto. So if you can capture demand, that's great. Sometimes that's there because you're willing to pay more on Google. You have better billboards, you have better referral programs, whatever. But on creating demand, that's where you're educating them. And that education, often the piece that is missing is there's educational content about, let's say, so we have a swimming pool and I'm always Googling stuff about like, okay, the water looks like this or like my filter or whatever. If in fact, the company that was servicing my pool consistently sent me to a library about problems like that, and I ended up on their website every time I had a problem, they would be top of mind for when I couldn't fix it. And the disconnect there is like, here's the deal. You either hire a pool company because you don't know what you're doing, or you don't have time, or you can't figure it out. Well, I guess the first one. So really 2 things. You can't figure it out, or you don't have time. It's not worth your time. Right. And that comes down to nearly every single business problem when we're talking services specifically, is like, you don't have time or you don't know how to do it. So if you're educating me around those things in your educational content, you have to make it clear that I can solve this for you faster and more effectively than you can on your own. And so if you do that well in your content, people will reach out to you. Will people use your content for free and solve their own problems sometimes? Yeah, sure. But they're the ones that do not value your expertise externally anyway, so they're probably not a good fit for you. But this is what we do on our YouTube channel called Hubspot Hacks. We have over 100 videos showing you how to use HubSpot we get a good amount of inbound leads from people that are like, I watched 10 of your videos and I'm still confused. Can you just help me do this? Or like, I watched 10 of your videos and you guys are so smart. You know what you're doing. I don't have time to manage this. Can you just do it for me? Like that is the adage of the educational sale. The other thing that I'll point to is nobody today, all three of us here, want to be sold to. We want to come into a sales conversation armed with content, armed with education, so I don't feel like you're going to swindle me away from what I think my problem is. The bait and switch, can't do it anymore because I have to educate myself. So that's where that content comes in.
Let's dive into that because that's I hear that a lot. And you know, I follow Seth Godin, however you say his last name, and reading his books and things like that. And that's
I love him.
Yeah, I mean, he's great. And not that Tim Ferriss needs a plug, but Seth was on Tim Ferriss's show just a couple of weeks ago. It's a great
oh, nice.
show.
I'll have to catch that.
Yeah, please. Yeah, you should if you like what Seth talks about. It's really good. But dang, I almost forgot what I was going to. Oh, I know what it is. When did this? What happened? Because we've always had this sort of the used car salesman. It's like I feel dirty that I bought the car from that guy, or even going older school and the vacuum salesman that comes to your front door. Man, I thought I had the name Kirby. I think it was Kirby. I think it was Kirby Vacuums. They used to come door to door, and they were good vacuums. But man, when you bought that vacuum, you felt dirty. You felt like you'd been swindled. You know, it's like timeshares. Same thing. Some people really like them. Other people, it's like, man, I feel like I need to go take a shower and it's nasty. I mean, it's always been there, but what's happened then it's more, I guess, prevalent at this point that we're saying people are like, I don't even want to talk to that person.
Well, I think number one, we are much more aware of these things than we were in the past. So social media has illuminated the fact that like you can't save yourself from scrolling on Instagram or TikTok because we've made the app so that you're sucked into it. Like our level of awareness of marketing psychology, human behavior has escalated. Mm-hmm. I think the other thing is because we live in an age of information. If we come into a situation like that, it either seems like we're wasting our time, or it seems like as a good steward of my resources, I should come prepared because I should be getting the best value from this. And I think it all shifted, like the time that I feel like it shifted, and I am not at the age that I know when this happened, but when you went from not being able to see house listings online and you had to get them from your realtor. Like I've never bought a house in a time when that was true, but like I can't, and maybe the two of you in your markets are different, but like I can't imagine buying a house without going online and looking to see what's available on Zillow. That seems very strange to me, but the sales teams had all the power and they were helping expose the opportunities to the consumers. And now even in a business setting, I don't book a call with Calendly and say, tell me all about your calendar management tool. Like I'm going to come to that call with questions like, can I get a discount? How long is this? Like, does it actually work the way you say it does? Like we've got this jaded niche because we've been tricked. We just have been tricked too many times by people that understand human psychology. And we just we live in a culture of remorse. Like we know we can return stuff on Amazon. We know we can return it at any department store. I do not want to have buyer's remorse at all. So I need to be in control.
So would you say in following that same line of thought, would you say that our level of trust has dropped because of that?
Oh, I mean, we see it in politics. We see it in, the school system. Like we see that. So trust is something that if you've read Stephen R. Covey's the Speed of Trust, he talks about the four things that you need. Yep. And, oh, there you go. Yeah. Okay. This is why you have books behind you, Otis. For those of you that are listening, he's got
smart. I'm looking smart.
But, he talks about character and competence being two of those C's that go into that. And we are challenged on both of those things. because character, we're looking for people that are good people. And unfortunately, the news every day exposes people that are not good people. So we've grown to believe that there's less good people in the world than there are bad. And then secondly, competence is something that there's a book called The Age of Expertise. And the person who wrote this book, I can't think of the author, but he talks about the fact that our world has become this place where everyone thinks that they're an expert in everything because of a Google search. And so knowing and actually having wisdom and insight about something are two different things. And because of those two things, we can trust, quote unquote, trust somebody that looks like they're competent in marketing or finance, and then they completely jerk us around. And then we've grown to distrust even competence and certifications and credibility. So I think both of those things are playing into our world where, as marketers, our job's even more challenging because we're overcoming all of that situational and contextual bias in a world where, like, we still have solutions that will solve a lot of really good problems.
Well, it's not just the person that experienced it, but it's also their inner circle that develops that same attitude. So you're not just dealing with one person who had a bad experience with a used car salesman or the Kirby vacuum guy. It's all their neighbors and their relatives and their friends, and it expands because I don't know. I've never bought that. But I heard about a guy that bought that and had a bad experience. So, yeah. Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Kim.
I think we're really getting into like the meat of some of the marketing questions I had, wanted to talk about today, which we're talking about like the trust and those type of things. And it's like, the way I look at it is like, and we all know the term of like the, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on it now. The market age, like the market awareness. I'm like, there's a proper term for that. I'm totally blanking on it now. But it's like as audiences are more exposed, they grow, and then maturity. There we go, market maturity. Yeah. And as these markets get more mature, as those audiences get more mature, you need a different tactics to talk to them and these type of things. And I think usually when you hear that, it tends to be in this area. Cars are a mature audience. This is a mature audience. But I think what you're kind of getting to, Ali, is that it's really just a broad thing, that the audience as a whole has matured and come up, which is why, and you hinted this at the beginning, of everything in the market, it's the choice, the convenience, the freedom, those type of things. That's what people are selling nowadays. And then we're in this really weird spot where I'm buying a bottle of Coca-Cola because that's what makes me feel free, like an American or something. It's like you get these really weird things where it's like, is me buying this soda from a corporation really the thing that's connected to that anymore? There's stuff that does have a legitimate connection, but it's also gotten so watered down in all of the marketing. Do you think that is going to push out that kind of transformational marketing? Or do you think it's something where that audience is going to mature a little more and we'll be able to, smell the BS a little bit more, to where I can see, just as another arbitrary example, but, Ford, when I buy that truck, that one transforms into become the man I want to be, yada, 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 yada. But the Coca-Cola, okay, that's just ridiculous. Like, do you think that's going to be a little bit of the maturity that we're going to see in the market?
I don't know that I can speak to that specifically on brand marketing, because that's really kind of where that road goes down. But I will say, as you can hear, I'm an avid reader. There's a book called Decisive, and it's put out, same authors. Switch is the book, but they talk about the decision making model that people go through. And there's pros and cons, and then there's what the authors call identity based decision making. And a lot of people, especially in today's environment where we're looking for what's authentic, what's true, what represents us as a person, like we're really, just being at graduation this last week, the speeches of the two graduates that were talking was a lot about like embracing yourself and who you are. And I mean, there's so much chatter about making sure that you stay true to yourself. And so I think as we have folks leaning into that, I think we're going to see a lot more of this brand marketing with ideals and emotions, because quite frankly, in a world of AI, that's the one thing that we have left. So we're now seeing like ChatGPT putting out what we'll call like business copy and that kind of stuff, versus I'd much rather read a blog about, Camden, your experience in going to, let's say, Anchorage, Alaska, and going on a fishing expedition and whatever, versus like ChatGPT's version of how to go on a fishing expedition in Alaska, right? Like I would much rather have that experience. So I think we're going to see brands leveraging people's stories to identify if you're a Ford person versus a Chevy person, there are certain things about those brands that you come to like. They have certain attributes about them. There's certain things. I think we're always going to see that. I think where we're going to see some market maturity, kind of coming to head in other areas is that we've got to understand that people self-diagnose their problems wrong all the time. And that's where I think the biggest opportunity lies. And back to your comment about education, we saw this with the emergence of WebMD, 20 years ago, where you would go online, search for your symptoms, go into the doctor and go, hey, I have this. And the doctor's still going to go, we're going to need to do some diagnostic tests here. And the diagnostic tests are the frameworks that we use to run people through to accurately solve their problem. If I bring this back to I want quick ROI on my marketing, it's, Allie, I need more leads. We've decided that our more leads need to come from Google Ads. And if I just blindly launch Google Ads for you, I may run a bunch of money down the drain without realizing that no one's actually searching for the product that you're trying to sell. So I think it's all of that. That is the proper role of sales and marketing now, is helping you really understand what is your problem. And in Ford's case, you might not be solving for a problem. You might be solving an ideal. But to be honest, I think it was Chevy that came up with a new tailgate. Maybe it was Dodge. This is terrible. This is why marketing's hard, because it's
right.
GMC.
Well,
GMC. Okay.
I'm a truck guy. They each had
Dodge
has the split, GMC has the fold down. So sorry.
Full disclosure, we have a Ford F-150. So only in that family. But that is an innovative thing. And if you were on the fence about what truck brand you liked, the new tailgate may sway you into that truck brand. But a diehard Ford is not going to buy a GMC just because of this new fancy tailgate. So I think that when I go back to the marketing's complex and it depends, this is why the marketing discipline exists, because the average fander doesn't even know how to navigate that conversation.
How do you think the connection that keeps coming to mind as you're talking about this is the market's getting more and more broken up. And the example that comes to mind is entertainment. I was talking to my wife about this last night, that, we both have podcasts that we listen to. And the reason we both listen to those ones, and there are everyday ones, is because it's my group of friends and that one's her group of friends. And so we spend hours a day listening to these people, because it's like having our friends over and that kind of a thing. And, with, all the different entertainment out there, podcasts are an easy example, but even just Netflix, Hulu, all those. Dad, we've talked about this before. You put out a show about rugby in America, you and I are watching it. And we will buy your $5 a month service at the Rugby Network or whoever's charging it. And we will buy that because that's something for us. And there's only going to be 200 other people on that. And that's okay, because we'll all buy it. Do you think that with these bigger brands are going to go more that direction? Because it seems like, when we were using trucks as the example, so I'll stay there, the larger brands like that, the manufacturers have tried to always kind of spread to everybody. And are we going to see a little bit more of them steering into those niches like we've seen in entertainment? And I'm also well aware this is going to be more of an opinion than an answer, probably.
Yeah, I mean, my opinion is I think this is one of the biggest things, the challenges they're facing. This is single-handedly the biggest win you have if you are a small or medium-sized business, is you can identify niche areas to go grab market share based on either community or interest affiliation. Because like your point, if you watch, let's say, Ted Lasso, which is a very popular TV series, it's only on Apple TV, but there's probably one of two reasons why you like Ted Lasso. You like soccer, and it's kind of it's a comical sort of thing. And then two, it's just really good storytelling. And so if that's the case, you can find, if I had a mind map and those two things were at the center, what are the offshoots of those things? So if you like Ted Lasso, you may also like X, Y, and Z. So you start to identify these communities, but then you might sponsor a Ted Lasso podcast, or you might actually do whatever. I think too often we try to, I call this peanut butter marketing. We try to take one thing of our budget and just spread it across everything, and everything just gets really sticky and messy, but nothing tastes good. I would argue some people think peanut butter and everything might taste good, but it just makes it a mess. And now you really have to go deep and dedicate yourself to a community and a channel to earn that trust that we were just talking about. And once you're there, it's hard to kick you out.
I'm sorry. So you kind of hinted at this. I want to just clarify. Do you think that they are incapable of stepping into that area of the, for the bigger brands, or do you think it's more they're going to have to make sacrifices somewhere? It's going to be a big change. It's not because like the example I keep thinking of, it's like Ford. We'll keep on the Ford example. It's like Ford launches the rugby truck, to take the rugby example, and it's like this super specific, and all 200 of us buy that truck, and it's this, but it's like they're cutting out that entire market. So it's one, there's the adjustment there, but then two, it seems like you're kind of hinting at also the trust isn't going to be there because it's like it seems more like pandering.
Yeah, I think what we're going to see is we're going to continue to see these big brands in the places that you would expect them to see, because there's also this I don't know what kind of phenomenon it would be, but like by the mere essence of you not being in a Super Bowl ad, people wonder if your business is doing okay because you've always been in Super Bowl ads.
Right.
So it's just like in the absence of a story, people make up their own stories. But I think we're going to see in some of these teams, whether it's delved into like influencer marketing, but we've seen things like, okay, the way that Ford's going to get their message into the rugby community is they're going to find an influencer who's doing something, and then it's part of their influencer strategy as opposed to a specific channel strategy.
Right.
So, but again, like I think that's what's interesting about small businesses is you can learn what the big brands are doing and then figure out how to like really take that to a specific level, because most small and medium-sized businesses don't have the budget to be like, we were here. They need something to come from the we were here.
In that same vein, kind of what I'm hearing, and what's making me think of is we're coming full circle back to the fireside chat sort of environment, because it's about the story and how do you show that story to connect with your client, your future clients, if you will. So do you see more actual storytelling in that, Otis sitting on the stump, with the fire crackling, talking about, well, Ford got me here, and the North Face is the sleeping bag I'm in, kind of story. That sounds, I mean, and you touched on the influencer thing. That sounds more like influencer marketing than what, and if I'm way off, please tell me, than what I'm seeing like on normal ads.
Well, and I think just to add in, it's like that is also what we're seeing a lot of, like the podcast ads, because it's like you're going to this specific person. It's like, Joe Rogan, just because it's a huge one. It's like Joe Rogan is selling this thing to you. And it's like, once you have that, then it's like you're identifying your brand with it. So you get that little bit more of the trust to ease the lubrication a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same reason why you had, so-and-so celebrity after the Olympics on the box of the Wheaties. Like, that's the same play. So influencer marketing isn't new. We're just like doing it in a new way. Mm-hmm. I think back to your question though, Otis, about like how we're seeing the structure of ads. Like, I mean, for everyone here that's listening, I'm not a big brand advertiser. That's not one of the things that we do. But I will say from a execution of ad standpoint, the biggest thing that people are aware of now is, was that a made up story? Like we appreciate good fiction. I mean, Game of Thrones, come on. Like how many viewers do they have? That's not real. But like, we also know reality TV is not real, but we still watch it. Not personally, but like my husband loves watching The Bachelor. I'm like, why? Why are you watching this? Like, of course you'd fall in love with that person in a helicopter over Fiji. Come on. Like my first date was at Long John Silver's. Like, let's try and do a reality show about that. But I think that when we go back to like what's real and what's true, I personally believe that we say we need more stories, but what we actually want is things that are believable, that feel like they're part of my everyday life. Because like there's a saying that like the best way to get customers to continue to buy your products is to find the habits and routines that dominate their life and somehow find a way to insert yourself into those seamlessly so that it feels like it was made to exist. So if Ted Lasso, using that example, if every Friday you watch Ted Lasso, sharing a story of 7 families that have a Ted Lasso night would be an interesting way to talk about that show with a story in a way that's relatable to me. So I think that's more of what we're going to see than like kind of the sleeping bag on the edge of the river kind of thing.
You mentioned
darn, there goes my
mentioned
side gig.
right.
I mean, maybe you could do that with the truck that folds out, and you fly out of your sleeping bag out of your truck onto the truck bed because it's so easy. Yeah, who knows?
There you
go. You mentioned, Ali, that you're not working in the big marketing area. Does that sorry, that was a very poor way of phrasing it. I know you know what I meant. But do you like to learn from that? Because that's one thing I think of my time in agriculture, and that's where I got my entrepreneurial start. That was always, I thought you could learn the most from like the ma and pa farm, the smallest farm possible, and then from the biggest farm possible. And that's how you could find that middle ground there. Do you have a similar kind of approach in marketing?
Yeah, actually, I learned a lot about marketing by looking not only at, I guess, so we do all of our work in business to business. So if you're selling a software or a service or whatever, that's the type of companies that we help. But in big brand marketing and advertising, like you see on the Super Bowl, typically those are what's called business to consumer. And so it's like big brand, you have a problem as a consumer, you go buy it, Target, Nike, whatever, like that's the kind of stuff that's B2C. Usually as a industry, business to business, there's two problems we solve. They either don't have enough time, or they don't have enough leads or need revenue. Those are the two value propositions that businesses have. Because it's so revenue focused and time focused, that most of the stuff that's popular with business to consumer brands, Nike, Target, whatever, that stuff leads the way, and then it hits B2B about 3 to 5 years later. Maybe not that long, but I'll say like the way that we order on Amazon with the one-click ordering is super easy, blah, blah, blah. That has conditioned us and our habits to expect some of those things in the business context. Okay. So how that exists now is like in a business setting, you should not be sending me a document to sign and fax back to you anymore. That behavior should be out because on Amazon, I can just quickly sign for a package on, whatever. So like the business to consumer behaviors dictate what happens in the business to business setting. So that is how that inspires us. And then from a storytelling perspective, we'll say like, we've seen this happen in business to consumers. When it comes to business now, when I buy a software, Camden, I want to know what your experience is because again, like on the website, I see it does all these things. Mm-hmm. Camden, does it actually do what it says it does for your business? Can you tell me? And so now we're seeing that storytelling come into business to business. So I think, again, back to your point, like, yes, I love to look at the big brands and see inspiration there, but you also see a ton of inspiration when you just look at other industries and how they're solving problems in general.
Mm-hmm. So how do you see your business, your industry, the marketing industry, staying in front of AI? Because we touched on it. You're already you're a huge believer in that human interface and having the human in the loop. But to the common person, to Otis sitting there reading an email or an ad or whatever, how do I know? I mean, I'm not going to be able to go, oh, well, that sounds very AI-ish and not very Ali-ish. So how do I shift that? How do you stay in front of it, I guess?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a couple things we'll see, and we're already seeing it in some markets that are far more tech forward, and that is like those markets are already being like, yep, I can tell that AI wrote that. So like depending on, again, your level of understanding of the technology, we're going to see people that there's going to be ways for them to say, yep, I don't think actually a human's talking to me. And therefore, like, I'm running you to spam, just the same way we had when it's like spam filters picked up if there was like, an exclamation point or the word sale or something, and it went to the promotions tab. Like we're seeing that same thing. I think on a bigger thing for us as an industry is AI. There's always something in marketing that comes out that's going to revolutionize everything. Like, don't get me wrong, AI is one of the biggest things to change and set the course for change from here till forever. Like, it is one of the biggest things. But we continue to have this, like, video is going to change us and TikTok's going to change us and this is going to change. So like, I'm kind of over here like the grandma in the rocking chair being like, listen to me, children. Some things are steadfast and fundamental. And the thing that's steadfast and fundamental is understanding your customers. What are their problems? How do they talk about them? And how are the ways you need to get in front of them? So if you don't have those 4 things, nailed down first in a way that's very actionable, you're going to have AI looking like a hammer and you just like pound everything like it's a nail. So like I can write blogs, I can write social, I can do this and I can do that. At the end of the day, AI is a tool to help you execute on a well-developed strategy that's already there, that's then augmented by humans. We're using it to create outlines for blog posts. We're using it to create brainstormed ideas for some webinars. We're using it to frame up some email copy, but then a human takes it down the rest of the field.
Mm-hmm.
Because when it gets in your inbox, when it comes in your social feed, when it shows up online, the two questions people ask is, why did I get this? And is it relevant to me? And right now, most of the time, AI can't do the strategy work for you if you don't solve those two things first. And again, back to that example, Camden, I'd much rather read your story of fishing in Alaska and where you would recommend going versus where AI was going to pull that off of a map and give it to me. So I think we're going to see the rise in preferences of like content that's much more inspirational versus I'm using AI to write like statements of SOPs inside of our company on step-by-step processes, but people aren't going to like read that and go, wow, this is amazing. It's just like how to make a sandwich. Here's the 7 steps, right?
You talking about the AI there. One thing that we've talked about before on the show is, and just broadly speaking, that one of the things we'll probably see a lot of is a split when it comes to these type of technologies, that it's going to be here's the AI manufactured one, you can get it for a 10th of the price, or you could be over here getting the human one. Would you agree with that in the marketing field, that it's going to be like, you can pump out the AI ads for $1.50 on Facebook, but it's like that $10 human ad is going to be the one that actually can get you stuff. Do you think that's a split we're going to see?
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting in the advertising perspective, because really advertising is so data driven that, right now, one of the best things that, it's been there for a while is dynamic ad testing, where it's like, here's 17 different words that we can use, and Google decides to choose the ones that work best. And so we really are using AI already in those scenarios. I think when it comes down to the human interaction is this like generating interest in a product and a sale, how the product worked for you and what that means. Examples of what this means in everyday life. So I think we're going to see a lot of like bottom of the funnel, just like validation of whether or not I should take this next step with this product or service or company. And then we're also going to see top of the funnel stuff that's like far more inspirational. So I do not want to see a TikTok that's generated by AI. I want to see a TikTok that has a human person or a Facebook video or something like that. So I think we're going to see both of that. But when it comes to either human versus AI, like cost wise, a friend of mine on Twitter, Brooklyn Nash, he already put out like he had 3 people write an intro for a blog post, and one of the people was AI. The other one was a content marketing agency farm, which is like, you ship it off to them and it's a bunch of writers and they write a bunch of stuff. And then the third one was a writer on his team that had contextualized it based on something. And he said, can you guess which one is written by who? And really like, the majority of us that are content focused people could say, yep, we know this is AI. We knew this was the content farm and this was the writer. So I think it's more of that kind of thing where it's like, what sort of brand do you have, and can it help or hurt you long term?
And I think that's the other piece that I was thinking about with that, is that it's like, okay, well, what is the brand there? And, what are those pieces? Because the way I see that split going, and in each industry, it's going to be so different which way the percentages come out. But there's going to be people, it's going to skew younger, of course, but it's going to be people who are like, no, I want AI. Like, it's like, why would I pay for this? It's like, I could just have this and it could be cheaper and all that. I know it's not real, or it's not written by a real person, but it doesn't matter as much. And I think that's where you see that kind of a split of, it's like those two different tastes.
Yeah. I think as the technology continues to learn and get smarter, we're going to see a lot of really good copy from the AI generated. Where I think the biggest opportunity is your differentiation of concepts and strategy is still the biggest place to win. So for instance, I'm working on a blog post about like all the different acronyms that surround the world of HubSpot. And so I used AI to help me, 1, go and find all of the different acronyms that people might use, 2, define them. And then 3, what might be some funny other examples of the acronym SQL? What else could SQL stand for? And it gives me a bunch of random stuff. Okay, so it like adds to the humor of it. And then I'm like, okay, let's take this one step further and say, how might Harry Potter define an SQL? And so you start to add a layer of culture and flair, and AI is helping me do that. But the strategy and creativity was driven by me.
It's the old adage of ask a better question, get a better answer. I mean, even with
Oh my
AI,
gosh.
that's what you're getting.
Yeah, I mean, literally, Otis, by just saying that, you're like, I'm a prompt engineer, but really what it means is just ask better questions.
Yeah. Ooh, prompt engineer. I wonder what university's going to issue that degree.
I'm sure there's already some.
On the bandwagon first, right?
Yeah.
I mean, shoot, I think I've made this joke before, Dad. I remember in classes in probably middle school, taking a week where we learned how to Google. It's like those type of things, as weird as that is, it's like I could probably get a better thing on Google than somebody else might because I took that class. As weird as it sounds, it's effective.
It is an underrated skill, Camden. I mean, I told people on Twitter, I've got a tweet now that says I'm starting the school of mom for the summer for my kids. So this is the start of the summer as we're recording this, and 3 of the things on the list are, how to Google, how to do laundry, how to, look up your balance in your checkbook on the online banking. All of that is super important, but you can do so much in life if you can just figure out Boolean searches and Google drill down. 100%.
Oh, yeah.
I like her school better than Otis's school of dig a hole and fill it back in.
Hey, it worked out okay, I just say. But yeah, back to Google. When I was doing my master's degree at Naval Postgrad, I had a couple of folks that I don't know, few years younger than me, and man, I learned so much about how to do a Boolean search, how to do Google better, and it was a huge advantage to me in researching for my thesis. I mean, goodness gracious, as opposed to going to the old school library and going through the cards or the microfiche. Golly, it was unreal. Man, I'm one other thing I was thinking of that was popping into my head, and it goes back to the people that are consuming the content. And what's popping back into my head is the good old Ronald Reagan with the evil Soviet Empire and the trust but verify and the nuclear agreements, right? That great comment. How do people, because even businesses, I know you focus more on B2B, but there's people running those businesses. What's a good way that they could trust but verify in the content they're consuming?
Yeah, there's a couple of things that people look for, and that is Google searches are one way to, if you rank high enough, people assume that you have the authority to be an expert on that. So if you're on page 1, there's usually some inherent value there. It's difficult, nowadays it's difficult to try and do that in a very negative manner. So you see, keyword stuffing and all these backlink farms and that kind of stuff used to be the thing. Now it's pretty legit. It's being changed on the daily thanks to AI. So we're in this whole new world of is AI going to show me the stuff that it only wants to show me, and I'm not going to see the rest of the internet anymore? So that's a whole different episode. But I think trust and verify comes down to people dig into things, and we call them credibility markers. And credibility markers might be things like, what's your title? How long has your company been in business? Do you have any reviews online? Do I know somebody personally that's worked with you? Do you have a picture? We judge people not because we're trying to be, jerks about it, but we make a snap judgment within a second of what somebody looks like online. So does your picture look like you launched your business yesterday, or does it look like you have a professional headshot done? What are the titles of the team? Are you a one-person shop, but you use the word we all over your website? Why did you use we? And it's just you. What are you trying to hide? It's all these little tiny things that we look for. And we do it in a matter of seconds. So I'd say that if one of the best things you can do if you're trying to figure out how people are consuming your content, get a third-party perspective, because a lot of that stuff you might not even realize is happening on your site, and you're too close to it to see it.
Yeah, that's huge advice. Yeah, thanks for that. And it was almost something I learned, but it did not top my main point that I got out of this conversation, and that was time and convenience are our currency. And that is so true. I talk about managing your time all the time with my clients and in other venues, and how important your time is, because you can never get it back. But I hadn't added in the convenience, because convenience equals more time. So that is such a great way of looking at things. Camden, how about you? What'd you learn?
Funny looking at my notes. I'm like, I feel like there's so many different specific things, but I just got to go with the broader of just like the understanding that I already had of marketing and where it's going, and whether it's AI or just the transformational type marketing and those different pieces, just where that's going, and that kind of like the education and how it will keep developing from there. Just so many different insights on that.
Allie, how about you? What'd you learn?
Yeah, I think in talking through this with the two of you, one of the things that continues to I'm reminded of is that the understanding of marketing being I put a coin in and hope to get 5 coins out. Like, we're always going to be up against that that expectation. And really the way that I think, Camden, you prompted the question around like short-term versus long-term gains, or Band-Aids versus surgery. I really like that analogy. And I think that's one that will resonate with people, kind of taking that forward to our clients as well.
Or surgery versus physical therapy too. Throw that one in there for Camden's sister, just so she can.
There we go.
You get some credit.
I don't know. That might be tough, Otis, because like PT assumes that I got to do work. Like, what are you talking about? I have to do work to get results. I don't know if I like this.
There you go. Oh boy. I'm going to get a phone call when this show comes out. I can just tell you. Allie, how do folks find you, connect with you, see what y'all got going on at Simple Strat? And hopefully, why did I just draw a blank on? Yeah. Oh, whew. I started to sweat. I was like, did I forget the name? I got it right.
Yeah, no worries. So if you would like to connect, one of the best places to find me is on LinkedIn. If you look for Allie Schwanke, ALISCHWANKE, you can find me on there, always sharing content. Today I put a video out about how to do better email. So if you want to check that out. Simplestrat.com. We are always putting out new resources. So we've got a resource library there with a bunch of free things you can download. And if you're a HubSpot user or thinking about any CRM or marketing automation for your business, highly recommend the YouTube channel, Hubspot Hacks. Over 100 videos there. We got demos as well as down to like how to do things better. And then ultimately, if you want to take us up on a free consultation, happy to do that. So if I think right now as we're recording this, we did kick off a new webinar series. So once a month, we have a webinar designed to help you with marketing, and then one designed to help you specifically with HubSpot. But you can find that on our website under the webinars tab.
Oh, that's awesome. And thanks for that, because I've played around. Camden and I played around a little bit with HubSpot, and man, there's so many capabilities that you pay for that you can never get to until you get some education. So that is a great resource to have.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So Allie, thank you again for your time today and sharing with us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Camden, run us out.
All right. Thank you all for listening to the Cam and Otis Show. And a special thanks to our guest, Allie Schwanke, for joining us today. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to pass along to someone else so they can enjoy it too. Make sure to follow the Cam and Otis Show on Facebook and Instagram. And you can watch full videos of the show on our YouTube page. And while you're there, hit that subscribe button too. As always, the full archive of our episodes available at www.camandotisshow.com. Thanks again, and we'll see you all next time.